Fantastic. All right. All right. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Yeah, 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 yeah. We're getting more and more clothes in my little boutique. So you got to hurry up and get here. Oh, look. I just am excited. I love that sort of thing. I really do. And now that I can wear the clothes that I want, girl, whew, you cannot hear the reverend. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Let me go to my settings. I'm gonna go to audio and let's see. Keep speaking, Pastor. Can you hear her now? Can you hear her now? Okay. Just keep talking. Okay, hold on. Let's just see. This one. Just keep talking, Pastor. Oh, you got to wear them. Can you hear her now? Okay, just keep talking because I'm just going through each. Can you hear? Oh,
Can hear
okay.
you,
Hold
Pastor
on.
Reverend.
Let's just keep on talking. I'm just going through each microphone setting.
Stevens County Commissioner Dennis.
Yeah. Been waiting for the exact right thing. Hear them with.
Okay, do we hear her yet?
I can hear her now.
Okay, let's see. Microphone
And
two.
Reverend, keep talking. I turned the radio station down. I just want to make sure I can hear you clear.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry, Pastor. We were just trying to get these things because I don't know. It hops around now. It hops from place to place to place, and that is very frustrating.
Okay, I can hear you both on Facebook now.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's great because that was the problem we had on, and he is very, very thorough. So we can get this taken care of before. But you know what? But you buy all this stuff. There was a woman here, Bernadine Washington. She was one of the biggest black women in all of broadcast radio. It really in the beginning. She's a pioneer. Bless her heart. God rest her soul. And she was the sharpest woman you ever wanted to see. Oh my gosh. Oh, she was something. She was something else. And she told my mother it takes you a lifetime to build a wardrobe. A lifetime. She said, so you buy things and you'll buy it and 10 years later, you'll have the jacket that you should wear it with, So just keep on getting your stuff because it will come around. Because there was a purse I was going to give away, and it turns out I wore it, used it, and it was perfect with this athletic outfit, a very casual outfit that I had. And my mother was like, aren't you glad you got that purse? I said, I almost gave it away at the beginning of this summer because it's a crazy pink and gray. And I was like, I look like a clown with this thing. But apparently not. But thank you for giving us a word today. We're talking about the Queen and the treasures that people are demanding back now. What an exciting time to be alive.
60 seconds, everyone.
Okay, could you give me about maybe 60 more seconds? I'm sorry, I should have asked you for that at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, I can throw you another minute.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Please, I want to do this. Okay. Just found this other piece. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we are. Let me say hello to everybody. Hey. And Dave Dowling, let's not, if people want, look, I don't mind people participating in our conversations, but trolling is just ridiculous. James, if you want to be a part of the conversation, you can be. We welcome you here. But if you
All right,
harass
60
people
seconds
here,
again.
thank you, sweetie. If you harass people here, you're going to get blocked because I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to have my morning stars disrespected by anyone. We don't do that with each other, and we don't allow other people to do that. So now, if you want to participate, you can do that. If not, I welcome your leave. All right, everybody, let's get right to it. We've got a lot to talk about today since the, boy, oh boy, we're going to have some people who are going to give us a lot of information about the Queen. And yes, I am blonder than I've ever been in my life. This was not my idea, but I'll take it. Woo-hoo, if you go, if you can see me on Facebook right now, Pastor, gee whiz.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Bring me up just a little bit. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, Monday, September 12th, 2022. Coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm Santita Jackson. Let's talk about the Queen today. Let's talk about her legacy, all of it. When we look at Western corporate-driven media, we're looking at a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, a head of state for 70 years. But what we're not looking at is the conversation that's happening in the global South. That is the more than 2.5 billion people who are in the Commonwealth. At one point, she controlled, and she still controls about 1/6 of the globe. I have an interesting book, Who Owns the World? Who Really Owns the World by Kevin Cahill. He is an Irish nationalist, because republicanism is a real issue in Ireland. And the richest person on earth is actually Queen Elizabeth. That's right. She is the only person who owns whole country. She owns all of Canada. You can't really own land there. You could own your house, but not the land. It's something to think about. In England, it's pretty much the same thing. That's part of the beauty of the American dream, to be able to own your house and the land underneath it. So if you strike oil on your little patch of grass, it's yours. If you strike oil in the Commonwealth, more than likely it belongs to the Queen. So we're going to be talking about that. And what about these artifacts? This jewel, this 105 carat diamond in this fabulous crown that she has. Well, it was stolen from India, and Indians want it back. So what about that? What about, and there is a pushback by the British on giving back the things that they stole. And they've stolen a whole lot of valuable, not just artifacts, but jewels, golds, diamonds, all of that. So much of what you see was stolen. So we're going to be talking about that today, and just talking about the financial side of the monarchy. But first, we're going to talk about, at the bottom of the hour, Bernard Shaw, the inaugurating anchor on CNN. What was his legacy? You remember Max Robinson. These were the two first Black men, and Max Robinson really broke that mold, broke that ground in network television in America, to helm newscasts. And boy, Max Robinson paid a heck of a price. God rest his soul. But he opened the door for everybody else, because just about 3 years later came Bernard Shaw. And you have to applaud Ted Turner for putting a Black man front and center in his emerging world network. He was very smart, but it was also something that he did not have to do. And he was also guided by someone named Zernona Clayton. Zernona Clayton is a woman you should know. If you see the images, the footage of Dr. King's last birthday party, you see a beautiful woman walking in holding a cake, because she insisted that you at least celebrate your birthday, because Dr. King, my father got it from him, I guess. They just work on through their birthdays. It's just work. And she ended up founding Turner Broadcasting with Ted Turner, African-American woman, the first African-American woman in the South to have her own her own television show. So Oprah Winfrey, everybody, all of us owe a tremendous debt to Zernona Clayton. But that having been said, she also was tremendously influential in having Bernard Shaw named as the lead anchor for CNN. We're going to be talking about his legacy with Pulitzer Prize winner, Chicago Tribune editorial board member, of course, Clarence Page. So let's get right to it. We got a lot to talk about today. I think the fall is here, everybody. And sending all of our love and prayers to the families of September 11th. Yesterday was the 21st anniversary of that tragedy. It's hard to believe it's been 21 years, but it feels like it was yesterday. How many of you know where you were when you saw those planes hitting? I was living in New York at the time. I was literally on my way back home. And wow, it's just a lot. Just a lot. We pray for the families who were directly impacted and so many people who are sick today because of the chemicals that were released from those explosions. So let's get right to it, everybody. Monday, September 12th, 2022, Chicago will have a high of 63 degrees and there will be showers. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 77 degrees and sunny. The Bears won yesterday. How exciting was it? Right through the third quarter, I was like, what's going to happen here? I just said, I was sitting with my father watching the game. I said, well, okay. And then the Bears just came on and brought it 19-10 over the 49ers. Ooh, what a game, what a game, what a game. Major League Baseball, the A's 10, the White Sox 3, the Giants 4, the Cubs 2, and the Guardians 4, and the Twins 1, everybody. All right, everybody, so let's get right to it. Have you been watching King Charles III as he has been greeting his new subjects in the United Kingdom? He officially became Britain's monarch on Saturday after he took the oath as the new king in a ceremony steeped in tradition and pageantry and other people's jewels. The king paid tribute to his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who died at age 96 last week after the longest reign in British history, 70 years, everybody. She made a promise and she kept it, and that is to be admired, everyone. The state funeral for the Queen will take place on September 19th. Buckingham Palace has announced in what is likely to be a poignant moment. Indeed, they are saying that this could be the most watched event in television history. Members of the royal family will walk behind their beloved matriarch in an extraordinary silent procession this week. Heads of state and dignitaries from around the world have been invited to London to join members of the royal family to honor the Queen's life and her service to the nation and to the Commonwealth. Sweltering under rising temperatures, drought-ravaged states in the western United States are dealing with an outburst of wildfires that have forced thousands of evacuations and have worsened air quality. Nationwide, 92 large active wildfires have torched more than 728,000 acres, of the majority of them burning in northwestern states. Oregon, California, just Washington, D.C. Everywhere you go, everybody, got to be prayerful. And we still have the flooding and the bad water down in Jackson. I'm going to be talking about that this week. Ukraine is making gains in its counteroffensive against Russia. A growing number of U.S. and Ukrainian officials say in the last week alone, Ukrainian forces rolled through lines of Russian defenses and recaptured more than 3,000 square kilometers of territory, according to Ukrainian military officials. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said Sunday that there is a risk that U.S. gas prices could rise again later this year. She said, well, it's a risk, and it's a risk that we're working on the price cap to try to address. She told CNN when asked if Americans should be worried about gas prices rising again later this year. When are they going to ask the gas companies why they keep raising the prices? I think that's the thing that needs to happen. The 74th Primetime Emmy Awards show will air tonight, highlighting and celebrating the best shows on television, at least the ones who've been nominated, and streaming platforms. HBO's Succession leads the way with 25 nominations. Netflix's Stranger Things and Squid Game are also contenders for awards, as they have received a hefty number of nominations as well. And on and on and on it goes, everybody. So what do you think? What do you think, everybody? Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is saying that she believes former President Donald Trump should be treated as any other citizen when it comes to the Justice Department's investigation into his potential mishandling of classified document. She said, and I quote, "I do think that just like any American, if there is evidence, that evidence should be pursued." And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. And you know what? We have Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. We know you couldn't hear her on Friday. So guess what? She said, "I'll come back on Monday." What a wonderful, wonderful human being. And thank you for that. Because, you know, even if whatever it is that you deliver to us, we will be pleased to receive. But I also want to know, I understand that you're going to be coming here to preach. Where will you be and when?
I will be preaching for Pastor Bernard Jakes in Chicago here October 23rd. And I'll also be preaching at Mount Zion of Joliet for Pastor Curtis Bryant on the 30th, I believe.
Now, is that of this month or October?
That is October. Yes,
Okay.
that is October.
So it's at the end of October.
It is the end of October, correct.
Okay.
I will be there. I'm excited. You know, I have a fondness for Chicago. Every time I go, I fall in love a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful. I'm so happy about that. So happy about that. You know, what is the good news?
The good news today is I actually want to talk about SAD. I know that's ironic, right? That I would bring good news talking about SAD. However, I'm not talking about SAD as in the emotional sorrow that we feel, but rather SAD as in seasonal affective disorder. I, like so many of you, I'm sad because summer is quickly and has really come to a close in almost every sense of the word. While it's still fairly warm here, we are soon approaching what we call sweater weather. And that makes us sad. We are trading our mimosas very soon for Merry Christmas. We are trading our sweaters, well, our shorts for sweaters. All of these things are happening. The leaves are changing. The flowers are dying. And you know what? It comes up sometimes that can make us very sad. Some of us are living with seasonal affective disorders. As the seasons change, we become more melancholy. We become more sad as the days grow shorter. The sunlight is a little bit less. And I wanted to talk about that for anybody who might be feeling that and mourning their summer. I'm reminded of the story of Hannah in the Bible, who year after year would travel with her husband and her sister wife, as it were, to festivals. And they would celebrate what we might be maybe would call Thanksgiving or Christmas. In any rate, it was a new season. It was a change. It was a shift. And she would get sad because every year she would mourn the idea that she could not have children. With every passing season, she got a little more sad. And while we're not talking about us being able to conceive or be barren, we know that with every passing season, every time this shift happens, we tend to get a little more sad. I want to help you distinguish between sad and other forms of depression. It resembles other types of depression, but the key difference is that your symptoms are limited to the same season every year. I want you to pay to that. When the summer turns to fall, do you find yourself a little bit more melancholy? When fall goes into holidays, do you find yourself melancholy? I want you to recognize the symptoms of this feeling. With sad, you're likely feeling irritable. You might be hungry all the time and lean into those cravings of carbohydrates and bread and pasta. It's also common to sleep more. There's different varieties of sad. It usually strikes in the winter, but not always. It could be striking you right now in the fall, and you're wondering, what is this? And here's how you help. First, increase your exposure to sunlight. As the days get shorter, you want to take advantage of all the daylight you can, especially in the morning. Morning light is especially important. So look to each day as a reset, a new start. Try out light therapy. Maybe your physician or your doctor can prescribe light therapy. Surround yourself with as much light as possible. And that doesn't mean physical light. Also, the lightness of people, the lightness of experience. Get more exercise. Get out there and walk. Taking a morning brisk walk will do wonders for your demeanor. And manage your stress. Be gentle with yourself. I found, Santita, that we are really good at giving people grace, but rarely do we give ourselves grace. Take the time to relax. meditate, pray, listen to music, and be gentle and kind with yourself. And if at all possible, aim for some good quality sleep. We serve a God that neither slumbers nor sleeps, so you can go to bed at night. And the more sleep you can get at night, the better you will feel. Watch your weight. And my favorite, do some traveling. Get out of your normal environment. If your budget and your schedule will allow you to do it, go away. Change your scenery. And be a counselor if you need to. I'm a big advocate for Jesus with a therapist. I'm going to say it again. Jesus with a therapist. While we are spirit, we are also yet flesh. And we need to take care of our mind, body, and spirit. That is the good news. The good news today is do your best not to be sad. As seasons change, you can stay steady.
Amen to that. I love that. I love that because we know we really, really, really need to have, as we pivot to Dr. Shanina Knighton, and she talks about hand hygiene and really just the hygiene that we need in order to stay healthy. The thing is, we need mental hygiene too, spiritual hygiene, and we ignore that. We ignore that at our peril, because if when it gets darker and colder, you do kind of come in a little bit more, and I'm like, I got to pull out these sweaters again, which I did not completely put away, to be quite frank with you. But now I've got a nice little bill that I've got to give to the lovely lady at my dry cleaners because everything smells like mothballs. But please take care of yourselves. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, you've got to get her book. I see you, sis. Go to Amazon. I see you, sis. I promise you, it will bless you. It will bless you. It will bless you. And again, when will you be preaching here in Chicago? Did Pastor Williams go? Oh, well.
Is she still there?
Okay.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry. I will be there on Sunday, October 23rd and October 30th. I can't wait.
Well, we can't wait to see you. Got to hurry up and get here. Well, let's pivot to, I'm about to call her pastor, but she does have a ministerial zeal. Dr. Shanina Knighton, and brilliant infection preventionist, registered nurse, college lecturer, professor. We love her. She's been at Case Western Reserve University, but she's got this big job now, executive director of APIC's new Center for IPC Research, Practice, and Innovation. It's an association for professionals in infection control and epidemiology. It's the largest of its type in the world, and she's doing brilliant work there. We're so proud of you. Now it's going to be in the 60s today in Chicago. I mean, and not the upper 60s. It's supposed to be like 63 degrees. And so we're getting in cars. We're getting in closer quarters with each other. Dr. Knighton, what do you do? How do you take care of yourself? Because, now people are not wearing masks. They're not. They are not. So what are we supposed to do? Because we're still in a pandemic, right?
Yeah, we are. But I also think, too, some of this stuff is best practices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether we're looking at COVID-19 or COVID-2, rather, if we're looking at flu, if we're looking at RSV, if we're looking at the common cold, a lot of the practices that we should be doing really goes across all spectrums, okay? And I think the one thing that I've done, and I know infection preventionists in general aim to do, is to really teach people that we do not have to normalize illness. We do not have to normalize infection. It's not something that has to be a part of who we are. And Santita, I don't know about you, but I actually know people that were not sick. And when I say not sick, they didn't have a cold, they didn't have a flu, they didn't have COVID. They got nothing during the pandemic. And it is because they understand that infections is not something that we have. Like, it is a possibility to have a world that is free from infections from human beings. But in order to do that, there's so many different layers of things that need to happen. And the one thing that we've been trying to emphasize is just the most important basic things, and that is keeping your body clean, keeping your hands clean, and keeping your environment clean. Those three things just in itself can go a very long way when it comes down to staying free from infections. So, for example, if you are in a workplace setting We all know what it's like that when we see a certain season come, everyone starts to call off if you're in person. And it's like, oh, such and such was sick last week, or we got 5 people out this week. There's no mental process there that tells people that maybe we should shut the office down because there's some sort of outbreak that's happening, right? People will continue to work and continue to think that it's okay that these things are happening because we normalize illness, but we don't have to normalize illness. The other piece of it is when we're thinking about hand hygiene just in general, it's something that we take for granted, but it's something that other countries tend to praise, tend to value, tend to understand, because when they recognize that there are infections and germs that are out there that they may and may not be aware of, they stay ready so they don't have to get ready. So you constantly watch other countries pay attention to their hand hygiene practices by making sure that there are hand washing stations, hand sanitizing stations in public places. We are starting to move towards that model here in the United States. I'm happy to see that I'm seeing them a lot more frequently. But the question is are you using them more frequently? Are you using them frequently enough in order for them to be able to stay? The minute that you start to see them disappear, are you going to advocate for them to put them back? Because it's the same thing with the grocery stores. I was feeling some kind of way they stopped cleaning the keypad that I had to touch, right? Or the counter that I had to sit my stuff down on, because I'm like, these are all measures that go into me being safe. So I continue to tell people the goal is to do measures that are going to keep you safe. I know I'm speaking more so of the physical aspects of it, which would be washing your hands, making sure that you're distancing, making sure that you're using masks appropriately. And when I say using masks appropriately, that does mean that you are you're washing your hands correctly and then putting your mask on. That means that you are washing your hands correctly when you're taking your mask off. That means that you are not sitting your mask down on random surfaces and that you are cleaning. It means that you are aware of where you're going. If you know that you're going to an environment that you have not been to or that you're not familiar with, the question comes that it's in that particular environment in itself. If you don't know people, do you have a mask just in case it's super crowded? Will that mask give you protection just enough to hurry up and exit? So there's so many things that we can think about here. And I know that we don't even talk about the importance of food and, you know, like Pastor said about going into the holiday season and what sugar does to our immune system. But these are just a few things that we need to think about as we're coming into the winter, or I was going to say the fall, of things that we need to take into consideration.
Who knows? We might go right into winter. I don't know. Because, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what happened in August. Because it sure was a cool August. It was supposed to be really, really hot. Dog days of August, I didn't feel that. But now it's like we're diving right into the autumn. And you know, we do have to have best practices, but that goes beyond man, as Dr. Knighton has been saying. It's about getting the right food, being conscientious about everything that you do, living while you're living awake, being woke, as they say, but really being wide awake, eyes wide open, not eyes wide shut. So please take care of yourselves. Of course, go to @Hey Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA. That is her handle. I promise you, it will not disappoint. You will love her posts. And she will make you think. She won't make you paranoid. She'll make you think. Let's talk about Bernard Shaw. That's right, the inaugurating anchor of CNN. Just think about it. Go back 40 years to have a black man helm an international news broadcast. No, hadn't happened before. Not coming out the West. So we're going to talk about that with Pulitzer Prize winner Clarence Page on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a minute. Dr. Knighton, how are you?
Good.
Good.
And at headquarters this week.
Shanita, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, no, I said good in headquarters this week. So in Arlington this week.
All right. I love it. Yay.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Yes, how are you?
Oh, girl, I'm doing well. You know, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Yes, just got a whole lot of. Okay, just give me 1 minute. One of my guests is, I have to really get myself together on WhatsApp because I have a lot of friends who that's what they use because they're not here. They're not in the United States. Oh, it's one thing after another, but here we go. All right, girl. Yeah, I'm always trying to find just that one little nugget, right? Yes. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. But how's your family?
They doing pretty good, being themselves.
Praise the Lord.
Sending Clarence Page and Chaparral through.
Okay.
Hello?
Mr. Page,
Yeah, hi, how are you?
how are you? Thank you for getting up so early to be with us today, although I don't believe that. I think that you are up all the time because writers have crazy hours. You know that.
Not voluntarily, yeah, not voluntarily. But yeah, I'm making coffee right now.
Oh my goodness. No, I mean, I know my father has always kept crazy hours. But that's, he writes all the time.
I know, cause I know I've gotten enough 5:30 in the morning phone calls in the past.
Oh gosh, that's so embarrassing.
Among reporters,
You know that's so.
yeah. But Jesse never sleeps, so we always said.
Oh man, I used to bump into
How
Dr.
are you
Cheek
this morning?
walking across the campus. Oh, I'm doing well. God is good. And he would say, "Your father
Yeah,
called me
yeah.
this morning," and it was
Yeah.
it was 4. I said,
Four.
"Ooh." He said he had an idea.
Incredible.
I said, "Oh, Dr.
Well,
Cheek."
you have plenty of work to do.
Oh man, that's true. It doesn't stop.
Always at it.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah,
It really doesn't stop.
Do we have a minute? I gotta hit my coffee grinder here.
60 seconds, everyone.
Please grind your coffee beans before we get on the air.
60 seconds. Okay.
Oh,
3, 4. Here we go.
you're as bad as my mom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but she wants her McDonald's coffee. Before I come and see her, she wants me to stop at McDonald's and get her several vats of coffee.
Oh yeah. That's me.
Oh,
Always go through about a gallon before lunch.
oh my! Are you serious right now? I gotta go to McDonald's to get you this coffee. I love that coffee. You know that. Go get it. Okay, Mom. I wasn't saying I wasn't gonna get it. I just
10 seconds, everyone.
Whew. Stand by. Chaparral, how you doing?
I'm good, Santita. Thank you.
Are you driving back from Atlanta? Stand by.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, Monday, September 12th, 2022. Let's talk about the great Bernard Shaw with the great Clarence Page, Pulitzer Prize winner, editorial board member at the Chicago Tribune, someone who's made us so proud down through the years. And he's going to give us some insights into Bernard Shaw and his historic role. Really, he broke ground, not just as an African-American journalist, although that was enough, but as a journalist, helming CNN. No one thought it was going to work. They thought it was a crazy idea. Now it's completely changed the way we look at news. But before we get to him, let's go to Chaparral, my girl, who is on her way back from Atlanta, celebrations by us. And I know I'm going to get me some, what is it, oxtails this weekend. Andre, you can start ordering yours. I have all these people who now want to eat your oxtails. I love it.
Thank you, Santita. I tell you, yes, we're on the road back to Chicago. We had a great event up in Atlanta, and we are definitely booked and busy for this weekend as well. And we will be making oxtail on Wednesday. So I'll make sure I'll get you some for sure. So give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We can handle all of your food as well as also your decor and your seat table, your custom backdrops, your balloon arches, whatever it is for your party or wedding needs. Don't hesitate to give us a call at
708-526, excuse me, 708-526-4546. You just hit a dead zone. But I don't want anyone to miss that because I have people calling me for these oxtails. And I said, man, I don't make those. And I can barely get I just eat one. I love them. They're great. They're just great. They're great. So everybody, I'm sending you much love. Chaparral, let us know when you get back home, when you expect it back to arrive back in Chicago.
We should be there around 5:30 today.
Okay. Traveling grace and mercies to you. Sending you much love, Chaparral. Give my love to your whole family, particularly to Mr. Wells. We love him. She keeps him working because she keeps shopping. We love it. Love you, Chaparral.
Have a great day.
Love you, Chaparral. You know what? Bernard Shaw, CNN's lead primetime anchor for 20 years, who broke ground as a journalist, as a Black journalist, but he did some really, really tough coverage, too. I remember bumping into him, Clarence Page. His sister-in-law was getting married to Ed Lewis, the publisher of Essence magazine. This was like 30 years ago.
Right.
I was with my dad. And he had just gotten back from Baghdad. And he was talking about how he came over to my father. My father was at CNN at the time with his television show. He said, Jesse, this was like the most harrowing experience I've ever had. He said, I was in my hotel room and we're on the floor trying to cover it, but we're trying to figure out if we're going to stay in the hotel room because the bombs were just being dropped all around us. I said, Mr. Shaw, you stayed? I just had to say that. He said, honey, the story had to be covered. I said, I get it, but I get it. God bless him. God bless him. So, of course, but you have been breaking ground as a journalist. I've known Clarence Page, thankfully. What did you say? You're among the only people who call us Mr., but we've known Mr. Clarence Page really since I was about 3 or 4 years of age, since I was a little girl. Yeah. And my brother Jesse, Johnny, Yusuf, Jackie, he has known all of us all of our lives, and we're so grateful for you. But, it has never been lost on us. Our parents never let it be lost on us the historic role that you were carving out as an editorial board member at the Chicago Tribune, and as a Pulitzer Prize winner, as a brilliant pundit, as someone who dependably could be fair and would make the case for the least of these. And I just want to thank you with all of my heart for all the work that you have done down through the decades. That having been said, Bernard Shaw is your contemporary and your friend. He's a little ahead of you, but he's your contemporary, your friend. You and I yesterday reminisced about Max Robinson, but let's focus on Bernard Shaw for the moment, because he made his transition. I don't think many of us are really fully appreciative in 2022 of the historic role that he took on. First of all, CNN people were like, what is Ted Turner coming up with now? This guy is, he's half crazy. He's coming up with these crazy ideas, but something about CNN, it took. But he did it number one, he built the network with Zernona Clayton, this Black woman who was one of Dr. King's closest advisors and aides. And she helped to shape the network. They made it very diverse on both sides of the camera. They did do that. And then he put this black man as the lead anchor of this global network. Can you help us to understand what that was like all those years ago?
Yeah, it's I'm glad you bring that up, Santita, because I keep forgetting that was 1980, and that seems like a week to me, but there's a considerable portion of your audience that wasn't watching TV news at that time, so we have to point out that not only was Bernie a pioneer as the first black anchor on a network news program, or excuse me, cable network news. I have to point that out because it had only been for about 3 years before that Max Robinson became the first black network TV anchor back in about 1977, 78. And that was he was over on ABC, and that was big news. That was a historic development. He co-anchored with two other gentlemen, Peter Jennings, and I'm having a senior moment right now on the other. Somebody's
well, I'm having a junior senior moment, but that was huge.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a big development. Black folks especially would run to the TV in the evening to see what news Max Robinson had to present. And then when CNN came along, though, we would have prefaced this by pointing out that there were only 3 networks delivering news, ABC, NBC, CBS, until Ted Turner said that I'm going to start a network that's going to be nothing but news, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that was people wondered how that was going to work out, because news was normally something that people thought of as 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And it turned out, the anchor of an operation like that is key. And choosing Bernie Shaw as the chief anchor was a big deal. He had not anchored before, although he'd been broadcasting for years. He broadcast on several Chicago stations for Group WWIND and a few others. And that was on radio mainly. And then on CNN, he became the chief anchor, and after a while was joined with Judy Woodruff, who is still on the PBS NewsHour. The two of them co-hosted a politics show as well as the regular news. And that was a big breakthrough. But really, it was the Saddam Hussein war, the war in Baghdad, that really made CNN, you could say, because they were the one station that was able to cover that story 24/7, and they were the first on the air live with the battles when the Baghdad occurred. And who was right there? There was Bernie Shaw and a couple of other fellows who were correspondents. And like you just said, they were all on the floor in that hotel room watching the beginning of the fighting.
Wait a minute.
Bernie just took command.
Breathing heavily. I mean, this was was real coverage. I mean, and that's why it was just it was amazing. I was very happy to see him a few weeks later, right? I mean, because the concern was, will he be able to get out of there?
That's right. And I was worried for him because this was going on live, and you could hear the bombs in the background, and you could also see the video that was transmitted out of there. And it was, I can't remember Bernie's exact quote, but he essentially said, ladies and gentlemen, this is hell's fire raining down out here. And it was a very apt description because, you look at the video now, you can see what was going on. And it was very key, though, that suddenly CNN's ratings shot up, and they were able to maintain that kind of popularity through the years until it was in the late 90s that MSNBC and Fox News came along, and they were direct competitors. But even so, CNN still draws a bigger audience even today. So they've not been displaced, but they really got their launch with Bernie. And Ted Turner was particularly proud of putting Bernie on the air as the anchor, and Judy Woodruff saying, I've got a black man and a white woman anchor. Can anybody else beat that for diversity?
But you know but what was it?
Nobody else was.
But what was the thinking behind that? I mean, and really, how did that reshape news? I mean, because we see black people, black pundits
behind it
all over the place.
Was thinking behind it came from different angles because, for one thing, diversity was important. Remembering that your audience is not just white males out there. You want to reach a broader audience of people who can feel like they can identify with your news operation, and that you have got them in mind. Not that you're just tailored just for them, but you haven't forgotten about them. And that was what a lot of management would say that. And like I say, ABC, Roone Arledge, putting on Max Robinson as a co-anchor with Peter Jennings. That was a bold move. And it was one that made every of the fact that diversity was a good idea, that viewers would not run away from you, quite the opposite. And so Ted Turner just took a step further. And now, like I say, the generation coming along now doesn't even look twice at the diversity on among TV anchors, because we just expect it.
Well, what is it? What is the role of the television anchor off camera? I mean, do they make editorial decisions? Well, first of all, tell me what does it mean for you to be an editorial board member of one of, this is one of the most esteemed newspapers in the country. What do you do?
Let me answer your question about TV anchors. I did spend 4 years at CBS 2 in Chicago, back in the 80s, and I've done other TV work over the years, quite a bit with PBS, et cetera. The anchor, really, that title is exactly what the anchor does. Anchors the broadcast. You've got all these people running around covering all kinds of news, and you need some sense of centrality to it all to organize it. To be the ringmaster in the circus is the way I compare it. I'm a print person, so I think about TV like a circus to me compared to the staid world of newspapers. But that's the main thing, and the reason why I knew I could never make it as an anchor. You ever seen that movie Broadcast News?
Yes.
That came out back in the 80s, about the same time.
It was like 87.
I was at CBS. Yeah. And one thing that movie shows is how tough it is to be an anchor. You got the one actor who plays a reporter who wants to be an anchor, of course, make more money, got more prestige, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, Bill Hurt.
He just kind of melts down on live TV. Sorry?
Bill Hurt. Who he was a little. There was one.
Was a successful actor.
That's right. He was a little daft, and I'm trying to remember who the other guy was. Dark, curly-haired, journalist, but he caught so much flack.
He was a real reporter. Yeah, that's right. And this was going on, by the way, the same time as the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which also takes place in a TV news operation. And their anchor was a real imbecile. And that's kind of a TV stereotype. The anchor's really dumb off camera. But on camera, he's the commanding voice of the network.
Leave Ted alone. I love Ted.
Yeah, you got to be able to do that, because that really is what brings in the audience and holds the audience, because they don't care about all the other rigmarole. They just want their news. So you got to be. That was why I was seldom comfortable in TV news. Too many live shots on the Dan Ryan at 10 o'clock at night when a blizzard was blowing. and I've got to look comfortable because the audience don't care how cold I am. So the combination of showbiz and journalism is what makes it work on TV. And Bernie was, in all seriousness, he was excellent at it. He always had a presence anyway, a very serious man. And he really admired the legendary anchors like Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite. It's a great story about how when Bernie was in the Marines, which he joined after he finished. He went to he went to high school on the South Side, and after he finished I'll just remember who the Dunbar High. He just finished, joined the Marines, and he was he admired what Walter Cronkite did, and he was stationed in Hawaii when he heard the Cronkite and a news crew was shooting a documentary on the island, and he found out where Cronkite was staying. And Bernie called the hotel 40 times, left 40 messages for Walter Cronkite. And Cronkite, out of curiosity or whatever, met with him in the hotel lobby. And Bernie had his dress uniform and all. Cronkite gave him, I figured a 10-minute meeting, but Cronkite gave him almost an hour. And they later became friends after Bernie joined Cronkite as a professional at CBS and all. But that was the beginning for him. And Cronkite told this story all the time about how he met Bernie Shaw. But Bernie showed so much initiative there and so much intelligence and presence of mind, which he always showed on the air. And I love his voice. I wish I had a voice that I could command as well as he could command his. Maybe I could have been a TV anchor, You
do it with the pen.
Yeah, there's a certain seriousness. I remember the other day, one of my readers emailed me and saying, I'll never forget the day Bernie was so excited he used the F word on the air. And I said, wait a minute. That's not Bernie. You got him mixed up with somebody else.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like him.
For one thing, that's like a firing offense in our business. If you and I people who got fired because of that. But Bernie didn't use the F word even in private. I don't ever remember him being the kind of guy, even though he was an ex-Marine. He never talked like that kind of salty talk. He was always very dignified. He came from a good family there on the South Side, and was one who I think a real role model all the way around. And I think he transmitted that on the air, and that's why people appreciated him.
How do you think he impacted the stories that got on the air, how they were reported?
Well, he was like the managing editor, which is a tradition that Walter Cronkite started. That the lead anchor is the managing editor, meaning the buck stops here. The guy who's in charge of everything meets with the staff every day, and they decide what the top stories of the day are going to be and line everything up. And of course, when you're on the air live, you're on your own. That's where the show either fails smoothly or it sinks because of the anchor. And so Bernie was very much responsible for the whole tone of CNN. And that tone continues today. I mean, the prime time anchors in the evening, they, of course, have their own flavor that they may add, especially like Don Lemon. He's got his own flavor, right?
That's right. I mean, and Chris Cuomo when he was there.
Cuomo.
But but now they're moving back to, I think, where Mr. Shaw was, which was, straight reportage. It seems like Chris Licht is trying to move them back into that direction. And quite frankly, I'm thankful for that because, I don't want to hear people opine when I'm trying to get my news. Just give me my news, please. That's all I want.
Yeah. It does seem like Licht is moving that way, and there's a lot of rumors around that he thinks that CNN is too liberal leaning and wants to pull it back, but he denies that. But I think you're right that people do fundamentally want their news, if they want entertainment, they can turn to MTV or something, or BET, whatever. But when people want their news, that's fundamental. And so even though you may do some analysis and make comments here and there, they want fundamentally to have a good news presentation. And that was what Bernie was, and unflappable. And I had several people email me, appreciate it, Bernie. I never knew what his politics were or if he had any, but that's okay because the anchor, like any journalist, any news journalist, I should say, it isn't supposed to show their politics on the air. You know, I'm a columnist and an editorial writer. As mentioned, I've been on the editorial board, and so opinion is my business. But I spent 20 years as a reporter too, both in print and broadcast. And when I was a reporter, I had to give. I had to display that veil of objectivity, meaning you didn't know what my politics were. And I'll never forget when I was covering the Harold Washington campaign back in '83, and when he was it was him against Bernie Epton, the Republican Party in Chicago revived around that to try to stop this black man from becoming mayor, But I covered both of them, and Bernie and I got along so well that whenever I'd appear at a news conference, a Bernie Epton news conference, he would say, "Where's Clarence? I want Clarence right up here." And I smiled and went up front, and I didn't say anything, but I said, well, this will be a nice visual. Bernie Epton wants to have a black man in the camera range when they
my gosh. Poor Mr. Epton.
We got along well. But after the campaign was over and he lost, and I joined the editorial board and got a column, I remember I was thinking of making some commentary about how Bernie Epton lost that mayoral race and how the Republicans had just taken him under wing as the great white hope. And Bernie sent me a note. This is back before emails. He sent me an actual letter expressing his disappointment in me. He said, "I thought you were more objective than that," and blah, blah, blah. He was really hurt. I didn't say anything negative about him. I just told the truth, which was that the Republicans rallied around him in town, or people who had been Democrats rallied around him because they wanted to stop that black mayor. But I said, "Bernie, have you ever heard you don't trust a reporter?"
Oh.
I was kidding, but the fact is. That is why political advisors tell politicians don't trust the reporters, because they just want to get the news that they're report what you want them to report. And so it's through a lot of that. But that was the thing about Bernie. You didn't know what his politics were, and to his dying day, I didn't know who he voted for. I could guess, but I didn't know for sure, and he didn't let other people know either. And I admire that kind of professionalism.
I've got about 30 seconds. What do you want us to remember about him?
Oh, I'd say that he was a great role model. I know that seems like such a cliche, but it's really true. He was a great role model all the way around, as far as a journalist and just as a man, as a family man, as a community icon. In other words, he didn't like, but he was. I lived in the same community as him here in Washington, and he was always out there. People are always having Bernie sightings, at the 7-Eleven or the local coffee shop or whatever. And he was always part, and the local jazz club. He loved jazz. So these are the kind of things I just remember about Bernie. I hope I can carry on in that kind of tradition.
Well, you have been. We thank God for you. Pulitzer Prize winner, Chicago Tribune.
And thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for all that you've done down through the years. You've done so much in every space. God bless you.
We'll keep up the struggle.
Well, it is that. And so thank you for that.
Indeed.
Everybody, Clarence Page, that's right, from the Chicago Tribune, editorial board member, brilliant, nationally syndicated columnist. Read him. I just, you're the reason I subscribe. Thank you. Let the Tribune know that.
Thank you.
That's why I subscribe to the Tribune. So I have to, because I have to go behind a paywall to get you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let them know that is why. You are the reason. Please. But
All right.
I love Clarence Page, everybody. Coming up, let's talk about Queen Elizabeth and her true legacy. The Indians want their 105-carat diamond back, but I don't think that the British want to do that. And they don't want to give these artifacts back either, should they? Back in just a minute. Mr. Page?
Hi.
Thank you so much for that. Oh,
I really appreciate it.
oh,
You're worth getting up for.
oh, thank you. Now, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm going to have to tell my father that.
I'm sure he'll agree.
He might even be listening.
I hope so.
No, please. No,
I'll
he
give
should,
him my best, by
he
the
should
way.
be getting ready for therapy right now. So, yeah.
Okay, well, please give him my best. I got to go over to the doctor's office and check up myself.
Please.
So,
Please go.
don't want to miss that.
And you know, whatever
Thank
you do,
my dear.
take care of yourself.
That's right. That's right.
And please
And you
give the missus my love, but all of my love goes with you. You've been
Sure
just
will.
part of my life and part of my heart all of my life. And I just thank God for you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And keep up your great work.
Oh, that means so much to me. Coming from you, that means everything. Thank you.
I'm delighted.
God bless you.
Great day now.
You too.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Drink that coffee.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, I'm guzzling it now.
Everybody, I put him on here a little early today, so he was grinding his coffee beans as we were coming onto air. I love Clarence Page, and I know that you do too. Hey, Abraham, I'm sending you much love down there in Venezuela. Sending you much, 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 much love. Linear Bob, sending you love. Lorraine, I've never been this blonde in my life. Oh, and you have to over condition your hair because all the color's been pulled out. But actually, I like this ash color more than the red. So, but you all let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Ooh, hey! I'm trying to be like Effie of the Effie Evolving Hairstyles. We love her, the fabulous Effie Rolfe. Everybody, check her out wherever you can, whenever you can. She's an absolute jewel. Hey, everybody, let's talk about. Let's talk about the. One day we'll talk Max Robinson. I think you all need to know more and more about his story, about his struggles. It has not been easy for these people who've broken down these walls for us. And when I say for us, I don't mean just Black people. Whenever the least of these win, everybody wins. Everybody wins. And
all right, sending me Queta, Attorney Patillo, and Attorney Hoffler through.
Oh, wonderful. Let me say hello to them. Yay, we're ready to go.
Good morning.
Hey, CK, Nee, and Robert. We're going to rock and roll today. I love it. Yay.
Good morning.
Yay. Good morning. You know what? I was talking to Robert yesterday, CK, last evening. And what we're going to do throughout the week, just to balance the coverage, we're going to be really, and whenever I can get Nee Aqueta, I'm going to get him and you so that we can talk about the crown and the financial aspects of it. And, because now the Indians are demanding that 105-carat diamond that's in her crown. And that's becoming a thing. Now people are like, okay, this is nice. We've given her grace. We want our stuff back. And there's just a lot that goes to that. And most of us don't know the financial interest. I mean, we just don't know how wealthy we have made the crown. Let me just put it that way.
You only have to visit Europe and London and the rest of Europe and look at all their palaces and understand what has gone on for the last 500 years. Before I even came on, when Santita made my day over the weekend and called me and I blessed it to her, I'm planning to write my history of the last 500 years. Okay, because we Black people and brown people, we don't know the history. Our job is to tell the story. The whites who took all our wealth and did all this, Of course, they paint a picture of themselves as wonderful heroes. They call it the age of exploration. I call it the age, centuries-long crime spree. We have the responsibility to tell that story to the people we are living with now and to those who follow. And if we don't do it, we are failing history.
Look, I completely agree with you. I completely agree. I
mean, some of the gold comes from my country. My country was called the Gold Coast.
Mm-hmm.
If you travel around the country now, the same way, if you've been to Johannesburg, when you are landing, you will see all these brown mounds, and you think, oh, what kind of fields are these? They are poisonous soil and the aftermath of digging the gold. So they dig the gold and they poison the land. Many parts of poison. They take the gold, they take the cobalt. Right now, they are poisoning Congolese women when they are taking out the cobalt. Congolese women are having deformed children now, today, in this century. In
60 seconds, everyone.
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, we're going to get right to it. Thank you all. You all like my hair choice. Yay.
Are you from Togo? Did you say you from Togo?
No, I'm from Akwete. I'm from Ghana. My name is Akwete. We are right next door to Togo, and the people are the same because there are Akwetes in Togo. I know I have Akwete friends in Togo, but I'm from Ghana.
Got it. Okay.
Well, as you can see, she has spent a lot of time over there, so that she had to get that straight. Stand by, everybody. We're coming in.
Okay.
10 seconds.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson.
And hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Let's talk about Queen Elizabeth. There are all of these celebrations. There's a period of mourning in Great Britain and throughout the Commonwealth, mourning the monarch, but not mourning empire. And I think it's important for us to disaggregate. I think we have to be respectful of the fact that there's a personal side of this story. Even though she was a world figure, she was a mother, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. Some people loved her, and I'm always very conscious of that because maybe that's because of the way I grew up, and people would say cruel things to me about my dad. I'm like, ooh, that was harsh. That was really unkind. But, remember, everybody has folks who love them. At least they should. But you have to separate out her personal role from her institutional role. And we're going to be talking about that today and throughout the week to counterbalance a lot of what we're seeing in corporate media, which is reinforcing the City of London, which is where all the money has gone in the first place. The City of London is in the middle of London town. And that's where the banks of the world, really, that's the center. If you want to see the religious authority of the world is the Vatican, the City of the Vatican. The military authority, the District of Columbia. The financial capital of the world is the City of London. The banks within the middle of London, within London. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. My brothers and sisters up there in Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's Monday, September 12th, 2022. I want to hear your thoughts about Queen Elizabeth, about her legacy. Call me at 773-927-73, 763-WCPT. I want to know what your thoughts are today. I want to hear your thinking about what you're hearing, because I promise you, a lot of what we're going to be presenting to you over the next few days, you're not going to hear in corporate media. And when you do, there will be a big fight about it, because everyone wants to talk about this kindly, benign lady, and she's none of those things. She is kind, very gracious person when you meet her, if you met her. But that had nothing to do with, when President Mugabe cut a deal when he was arguing, when he was changing Rhodesia into Zimbabwe, when he was fighting for to end apartheid in that country, as we were fighting to do, waging the same struggle in South Africa. They're all freedom fighters from the same generation. He and Mandela and Walter Sisulu and on and on, and Nyerere and all of these great, great, great leaders. He used to go and have tea with the Queen after he decided, no, we don't just want the vote, we want our land back. She didn't meet with him anymore. Think about that. After she wanted, he said, no, we want our land back. No, because that's not the deal that they've cut in South Africa. And that is a source of real discontent in South Africa today. So think about that, everybody. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 63 degrees, showers. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 77 degrees and sunny. And the Bears won yesterday. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. 19-10. It looked like they were not 19-10 over the 49ers, but they pulled it out. Major League Baseball, the A's 10, the White Sox 3, the Giants 4, the Cubs 2. The Guardians 4, the Twins 1, everybody. Sending love and prayers to all of the people throughout the British Commonwealth and in Great Britain, as King Charles has officially become Britain's monarch on Saturday after he took the oath as the new king in a ceremony steeped in tradition and pageantry. The king paid tribute to his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who died at the age of 96, having served 70 years, the longest reign in British history. The state funeral for the Queen will take place on September 19th, according to Buckingham Palace. Sweltering under rising temperatures drop ravaged states in the western United States like California and Washington and Oregon. They're dealing with an outburst of wildfires that have forced thousands of evacuations and have worsened air quality. Nationwide, 92 large active fires have torched more than 728,000 acres. Ukraine is making gains in its counteroffensive against Russia. A growing number of U.S. and Ukrainian officials say in the last week alone, Ukrainian forces have rolled through lines of Russian defenses and have recaptured more than 3,000 square kilometers of territory. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said Sunday that there is a risk, as she put it, that the United States gas prices could rise again later this year. She said, well, it's a risk. And it's a risk that we're working on the price cap to try to address, she told CNN. And when asked if Americans should be worried about gas prices rising again later this year, then I think it would be very nice if they would just ask the gas companies why they are just arbitrarily raising these prices. Are you going to look at the Emmys? Well, they're going to be on tonight. The 74th Primetime Emmy Awards show will air tonight, highlighting and celebrating the best shows that have been nominated anyway on television and streaming platforms. HBO's Succession leads the way with 25 nominations. Netflix's Stranger Things and Squid Game are just behind them. And that takes care of some of the headlines. Everybody, I want to hear from you. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. Let's talk about the Queen. The Queen, the longest serving monarch in the history of Great Britain, 70 years. She fulfilled a promise. How can one forget? And of course, in history, we understand that her uncle left the crown for the woman that he loved. He said, I can't serve without her. And they made him make a choice. It seems that she was always very upset. She felt that her father was not prepared to serve, didn't want to serve in that way, and that he had to take over. And she felt that precipitated his demise, which helped to steel her into duty. And the promise that she said, a promise is a promise is a promise, and I will serve you for the rest of my life. And she did that. We saw that she was engaged in matters of state 2 days before her death. She looked very frail. That was what was striking to me about the pictures, that she welcomed the new British Prime Minister, Liz Truss, to establish the government, but she carried on. You've got to admire that. You've got to admire someone whose word is their bond. That having been said, you also need to look at the institution of the monarchy, the institution of colonialism. Colonialism, it's ended, but now it's called the Commonwealth. And more countries are leaving the Commonwealth. They want to be republics. They want to be sovereign. So let's look at Queen Elizabeth. Let's look at all of the wealth that she has been able to pull from Africa, India, Asia, and the Caribbean. There were 5 to 9 countries depending upon the report that you read, in the Commonwealth when she ascended to the throne at the death of her father. She grew it to 53 countries, really swelled it to even 56 if you include some other places and some other financial arrangements that she has. 94% of them are Black and Indian. Africa, India, Asia, and the Caribbean is where the Commonwealth is based, and that is where she gets her money from. So we're going to talk about that, everybody. But that also includes the United Kingdom. It includes Canada. She owns Canada. Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan. It is a staggering number of people that she has under her Commonwealth. 2.5 billion people, 60% of them, 29 or under. And many of them are calling for their own independence today. Just think about it. Think about what happens in Africa. More wealth leaves Africa than goes in. And guess where it goes? Right to London, everybody. The War on Want report reveals the degree to which British companies now control Africa's key mineral resources: gold, platinum, diamonds, copper, oil, gas, and coal. We've got to talk about this, everybody. We've got to talk about it. It's very, very important that we understand just what we're looking at. So let's get right to it. We have got a tremendous panel who are going to help us to break it all down. Of course, attorney C.K. Hoffler, who has worked in Africa, the chair of Rainbow Push, and the former president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest Black bar association in the world. Southeastern Regional Director of Rainbow Push, attorney Robert Patillo, brilliant civil rights lawyer. They host their own shows on WAOK. CK will be on tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Robert was on, as he is every Sunday, from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. But we're going to let the table be set today by Nii Akwete. And he is what he would call a 24/7 global agitator for Africa. Brilliant, brilliant professor. He's been at Georgetown and George Washington University. And he really will help us to understand what we're looking at. I mean, many people, I have a little anecdote for you, as we're seeing that Indians demand this, that the UK return this 105-carat diamond following her death. I mean, you see these huge jewels that are in her crowns, that are in her scepters. They were pulled from Africa and India. And I just want you to set the table for us, Nii Akwete. What are we looking at? Because there's a different conversation in the global South that is in countries of color, countries that have been colonized by Great Britain. They have a whole different narrative than what we're seeing on television here in the United States and in the Western world. Nii Akwete.
Thank you so very much, Santita. And I am so honored to be on your show and to be on particularly with my two newly met brilliant friends, the two attorneys. What are we looking at, and why is the conversation in the brown and black countries that make up the majority of what is called today the Commonwealth? How are they feeling? I would just say how we are feeling, because you are hearing right now from somebody who was born into what is called the Gold Coast, what is now Ghana. I was born before we wrestled our independence, thanks to Kwame Nkrumah and his cohorts. That great generation, they wrestled it from the British. And in fact, the monarch, when Ghana got independent, was this very lady who just died, Queen Elizabeth. Okay? So this is what we think. This is what we are thinking. We have never wanted to be ruled by somebody else, somebody from Europe who says you are not ready to rule yourselves. That was their official message. In actual fact, they show up with soldiers. They show up with enticements. They show up with deceit sometimes we are bringing you Christianity, and they take over your country. In your great opening, I heard you, you mentioned the anti-apartheid struggle in Southern Africa. You mentioned late President Mugabe. You mentioned his cohorts, Mr. Mandela and others. I just wanted to throw it out that I actually, yes, I've taught at Georgetown. I'm on the faculty at George Washington. But actually, my work is being an activist, Washington-based activist, trying to let people know the history of Africa and why we need better policies from the United States from Africa. And the reason I'm mentioning that is I chauffeured Oliver Tambo in Washington, D.C. I took Alan Bozak and Bayers Norde and Bishop Tutu. When they had their audience with George Bush 41, I was the one who went to the White House with them because the White House was not very happy with my boss, Randall Robinson, okay, Max Robinson's brother. So thank you yesterday for mentioning his brother. I did all those things, and then the university say, come and teach. Anyway, so what are we looking at? And you are so right. I agree with you totally. There's one thing about this queen that has passed that I like. I like people who do their jobs, people who take their jobs seriously. She took the job on and she said, I'm going to do it. But it also reminds me that, okay, if you have good skills and you are doing your job, you must use that job to serve the correct cause. The right cause, not the wrong cause. And she, therefore, reminds me of the little I heard of Robert E. Lee, who was don't want to be governed by you anymore. And since you won't hear our words, we're going to fight you. And they repressed and tortured and killed a lot of Kenyans. And this was being done when Queen Elizabeth, she became queen when she was in Kenya. The other thing that, I'm listening closely to what the corporate media is saying because I'm learning some things and I'm also hearing a lot of bad arguments that I want to shoot down. One of them is, one of the things I'm learning is they say, well, she's very religious. She's very smart, and that every day they will send her the best summaries of government papers and she will read it. And then every week the prime minister will go in and talk to her. So she was well informed. So if she was well informed, did she know about this killing of Kenyans? Okay, it was under her leadership when they brought over people from the Caribbean to come and reconstruct Great Britain. It was called the Windrush. Okay, that was 70 years ago at least. And now what Britain has been doing, again, under her leadership, is to say to those people they brought over to come and rebuild a war-shattered country, okay, now you don't have the right papers, you need to go back. And their children who were born in Britain, you need to go back. Their grandchildren born in Britain, you need to go back. So she supervised a very terrible system. And we have to say that corporate system is not saying that because they are protecting their interests. We, the victims, we have to say that. And one last thing on the Commonwealth, I am glad that a lot of the Commonwealth countries are becoming democratic because the leadership that they have, okay, you have politicians heading there, and those politicians, yes, they bow to the Queen and they want quote unquote investment. Although, as you said, those investments actually are still sucking the wealth out of Africa. So my is in the current generation of all people, not just young people. Young people will lead it, but we have some very smart, young at heart, committed, older, black and brown people. They need to be involved in a democratic push that forces the countries that are now in to say, our people want us to leave the Commonwealth. If we leave it to the politicians, it won't happen. I'm even interested in who asked the Indians who it was who says, we want our diamond back, because I listened to the Indian Prime Minister and he was full of condolences. I'm not sure he was the one who wants this diamond
well, you
back,
know, but he's on the
want the diamond back.
He's really he's almost like a monarchist. He has very right-wing politics, Prime Minister Modi, right?
Thank you.
He's extremely...
So we need to rely on the people.
Yeah, because the people are calling for that. They're demanding the return of this 105-carat diamond, CK. I've got 2 minutes here. Could this go to the World Court or the ICC? Something? The Hague? I'm just pulling the international jury out of, just judicial system out of my head. I mean, is there anything that can be done?
Well, Santita, I think there would be many layers if there were a case developed against the monarchy in England. But I have to say, it couldn't just be Queen Elizabeth. It would have to be the entire monarchy. Some of this she inherited, but she promulgated, she perpetuated this. But for it to go to an international court, it'd have to be a cause of action, which probably could be formulated. And we'd have to see, because I don't believe the ICC, I don't believe that England is a signatory of the ICC in terms of, which is one of the international criminal courts that where you see prosecution of people who are involved in war crimes. So these are economic crimes. Some would say they're war crimes, but I'm certain that legal scholars internationally are looking at causes of action to seek reparations of some sort. And for that, there would need to be international jurisdiction, of course, because of the countries involved. So I think there is something that can be done, the details of which I'm unclear at this time, but it's something to look into for sure, Santita.
Oh, well, hate that this is true, but all of these international courts go after these so-called third world despots as if you do not have corruption in the European countries, in the West. It's just, girl, it's insane. CK, I got 30 seconds. That's crazy. Because these people are demanding the return of their diamond, 105 carats. They're demanding the return of their stolen artifacts from all over the global South. All of these colonized countries were looted, were raped. And guess what? The British are not inclined to return anything. But one thing that I appreciate about Niakwete, he has said, look, we're the ones with the power. The only reason you have a monarchy is because you've given them the power to lord over you. When she was coronated, it was a religious ceremony, everybody. And she was anointed with oil, and she said that she felt that gave her divine powers. It's true. And so they have the right to come and steal your stuff. But I tell you what, we're not going to be blessed until you give it back. I can't wait to hear what Robert Patillo has to say, but I want you all to call us. Tim, I'm going to get to you. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763. 773-763-9278. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Everybody like and share the show. Like and share the show. Hey, Dave. Hey, Abraham. Hey, Yolanda. Hey, Effie. Hey, Facebook users. Send me all much love back in just a minute. You all keep talking. Well, you know we're on Facebook Live. Robert, we need to get moving on this idea that we had yesterday.
I agree. I was just thinking we have to find ourselves some venture capital money and start a documentary on these things.
I think so. I really do. We have been talking about that, but we have got to. I mean, first of all, we have to tell our own stories, which is
absolutely. It's like Hamilton: who lives, who dies, who tells your story. Absolutely.
You know, so I mean, I can't get mad with anybody because power protects itself. You know, that's what they do. They're telling their story.
I have learned so much in this country, and sometimes I'm not even sure where a particular piece of wisdom I read or heard comes from. But I remember something along the lines of a man cannot ride your back until your back is bent. Okay, we must straighten our backs. We have bent our backs and we are allowing them. We need to tell our story and keep telling it. To me, the death of the Queen is should be a start of a new episode of history writing from the point of the people whose riches were looted. And it's not just the diamond and the gold, Santita. They looted our cultural artifacts, things that we have invested with our spiritual being in our countries. When Notre Dame was burning in France, people were saying, again, the corporate media, obsessed about that. Oh, poor France. And they were saying, well, it is a symbol of the cultural and spiritual essence. And I said, my goodness. So if France appreciates that, they spent hundreds of years looting all the cultural artifacts of Africa and sending them to museums. Germany did it too. Now, with a lot of agitation, they have returned, like they said, okay, we promise we'll return some of it. They've returned like 1%. Then they have passed laws that says, no, you can't return them. Okay? They have passed laws saying this. So we, today's Africans particularly, I think today's black and brown people, I think we have a huge responsibility. Because, in fact, the black people and brown people came before us. They did such a great job. Compared with what we have to do, their jobs were huge. What we have to do is nothing. We just need to write the history. We just need to rise up and say and show the evidence.
You don't have to. We said, I was talking to Robert last night, and this week will be dedicated to this. Every day we're going to talk about this because every day they are leading with, and I'm not mad at them. They're leading with the Queen, and even there is even the broadcasters who are on American networks are wearing black. I'm not mad at them. That's what they're doing. They are reinforcing the supremacy and the primacy of the British monarchy and the British monarch.
The divinity.
But we have to tell our story, and we have to tell it from our perspective. I mean, please, if we hadn't told the story from our perspective, we'd still be in slavery.
60 seconds, everyone.
That is a great example that has been set from this country by black people in this country for all these hundreds of years. There is no group of people who are more admirable in my eyes than the struggle that black people in this country have waged for 400 years.
Amen.
And that should inspire us to take that struggle to a higher level. And I will say again that our struggle today is nothing compared with what the previous generation had to do. So what are we waiting for?
I don't know. I guess someone to give it to us, and that's just not how it works.
10 seconds, everyone.
Stand by. As my almost exasperated Devin Andrakis is like, come on, everybody. Pull it in. Pull it in.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We're talking with Nia Kwete, brilliant professor at George Washington University. He's been at Georgetown. He is really an activist and a global agitator for Africa. Was with Trans Africa. We've known him for years. He's absolutely brilliant. And of course, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, chair of Rainbow Push Coalition, National Bar Association, someone who was raised in Europe and in Switzerland and in Canada. She's really grown up in this monarchical system, if you will, even as an American. So she has a very interesting and unique perspective, but she's also been a lawyer in these nations that have been, in these African nations in particular, that have been emerging into independence. And so it's just, she's been doing it since she came out of law school. Absolutely brilliant she is. And attorney Robert Patillo. And of course you'll be on Court TV when this week, CK? Do you know yet?
Santita, I'm looking at my schedule right now. I knew you were going there.
I can't help it.
I'm so sorry. I'm at the office. I'm looking at it, but keep on talking. I'll have it to you.
Okay, you know.
I believe it's Thursday and Friday.
That's okay.
I believe it's Thursday and Friday, and I apologize. I should have gotten
No. But honey, now you know I'm going to ask because I'm pushing it, and we're going to continue to push it. And she's like, this girl is making me crazy.
I'm excited. I just have so much else I'm doing this week before I get there. Thursday and Friday of this week.
Absolutely. What'd you say? I knew you were going to go there. Yes, I was. That's right. Well, she's also shooting a television pilot. There's just a lot going on, and it's great stuff.
I have a lot. I have a lot going, but I'm grateful for it. And Santita, I will say that the breadth, the approach, the diligence and the brilliance with which you have addressed these very, very important issues every morning, day in and day out, from the beginning, actually forever. I've known you for a very, very long time. You've always had this insight. Has helped to hone my skills in doing legal commentary, because it's not just about doing legal commentary in cases. It's about bringing a perspective that is different than what people are accustomed to hearing, because that is my truth. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at a case, I don't just look at it through the lens of, let me do this analysis of the legal pros and cons, the witnesses and all that. I bring everything to bear. And so, because I am a social justice engineer as well, I'm not just someone who does corporate work, commercial work, trial work, opioid litigation. I am a social justice engineer, and you allow me to express my opinions on issues through that lens when I give a legal analysis. So I thank you for that, and I carry it over into everything that I do, whether it's Court TV, MSNBC, ABC, the Peacock Networks, whoever gives me, when it works out my schedule, I bring that through. So I thank you for giving me the voice and showing me the way to be able to deliver that legal analysis. I've been wanting to say that forever, but I wake up and thank you every morning, but I want to thank you publicly for that, because
I love you. Thank you. I receive it, but you're giving me too much credit, because you've been doing this work for years and years and years and years. And all you needed, as my father says, you were a platform away from where you're heading. And that is what is exciting to me. Just a platform away. And we don't need to wait. We don't need to wait for someone else's platforms and get on them, which is what Robert and I have been talking about. You and I have been talking about that, CK. We've been talking about that. Yeah. We have our own platforms. Build or build them. Go out in the woods, chop down the tree, build the platforms, and get on top of them. How about that? Robert Patillo, what about this diamond? 105 carats. Oh, and it's big and pretty. And the Indians are saying, I want my diamond back. People all over Africa and India and throughout the colonized world, the British colonized world, are saying, we want our treasures back. You took them. You stole them from us. And Britain is saying, no. Robert?
Once I talked to an elder from Benin. This was probably about 25 years ago. They were probably about 90 years old at the time. This was in the West End in Atlanta. And they were telling me about the War of the Golden Stool. when the British came to finally crush the Ashanti Empire, and when the Ashantis revolted, their one of the most sacred artifacts that they had in their culture and their civilization was this golden stool that it was literally made of pure gold that had been passed down for generations, that only the highest chieftain of the tribe could rest upon, because they believed it connected them to the entire ancestry of their culture, of their civilization. Think about for our Western audience, Black Panther, when they go to the ancestral plane in there, the nice little purple area, something along those lines. That's how they were connected to it. And so the British came in, and then they stole the stool. Then they just randomly sat on the stool. Then they put their feet up on the stool. Then they sent it off to Britain to put into a museum, because they have absolutely no respect for anyone else's culture, society, history, heroes, traditions, etc. The same goes with this diamond in India. Europeans just see these things as being shiny rocks. Oh, look, it's shiny. Not understanding that this stone had been passed down for generations in India, that had been in the shield of one of their greatest leaders who fought battles that really created their civilization. It would be the equivalent of finding a piece of the cross that Jesus was nailed to, and then somebody turning and taking it turning it into toothpicks, just because they don't give a damn about the historical significance of it. The same with the heart of Africa, the largest the pure diamond ever found, one of the most sacred artifacts of that culture. They took it and they put it on the end of a stick, because that's all they care about it. They took one of the most sacred diamonds in the history of India and they glued it to a hat and took pictures in it, because that's the amount of respect they have for people's cultures and societies. So it's more so than simply returning these artifacts. You can go through every museum in Europe, whether it's the Louvre, whether it's in Germany, and they have stolen religious artifacts from countries. They have sacred shrines. Think about the Egyptology craze that hit Europe, where there were periods of time where they did little dinner parties with mummy unwrappings, where they would take a 5,000-year-old mummy and have a dinner party, cracking it open just to see what was inside. These people, because they have convinced themselves of the supremacy of their society, supremacy of their culture, supremacy of their religious traditions, they have absolutely no reason and no interest in respecting those that have taken place in the rest of the world. So it's absolutely necessary for us as the decolonized world to demand everything back. Because at this point, remember, there was a point in time where they weren't just taking our artifacts, they were taking our people. Think about Venus Hottentot, Sarah Botham, where they were putting us in human zoos to gawk at the body of the black women and black men, carting us around Europe and around America as oddities. Oh my God, look how tall they are, look how curvaceous they are. What they still do today. I was watching a comic book show, She-Hulk. They had Meg the Stallion on, and the only thing she did in the entire show was stick her tongue out and twerk. And I started thinking about them taking black women around in zoos to exhibit them to Europeans, so not much has changed. But we are going to have to be the ones to demand that change. And it's not going to be could you please give me back your my $500 million diamond that you stole? It's more so going to be, well, look, Britain, your energy prices are about to go up 80% this winter because of the war in Ukraine and the turning off the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. If you would like some of this nice African oil and natural gas that you may need to not freeze to death, I have a meeting that I would like to go to with you where we can talk about the return of some artifacts. They only respond to power. They do not respond to humanitarian cries. Remember, if Queen Elizabeth had treated the Jewish community of the world the same way she treated the African community of the world, we will remember her the same way we remember Hitler. There will not be a state funeral for her. But because they control the narrative, they control the history, they control the media outlets, they're able to shape the view of things. If you killed, repressed the Mau Mau, you are a dignified and wonderful queen. If you repressed the Jewish community, you are one of the worst killers of the history of the 20th century. It's all about the way that they make sure that they have those stories told in their history and about their communities to say.
There is so much wisdom there that I hate to jump in here, but I just want to emphasize one of the things that he just said about their disrespect for other people's religious traditions and cultures, and that disrespect has even seeped into their own. Europe is the place where the fewest people profess religious traditions. Okay, number one. Number two, Santita, yesterday I was mentioning this issue of climate change, climate injustice. That disrespect that they have, I see it in how they have polluted the earth. Okay, they don't respect nature. We have COVID, we have all these zoonotic diseases because their attitude is you have to conquer and dominate nature the same way we conquer and dominate peoples of color everywhere. We use violence, we take over, we use it to our own ends, and nature is fighting back. So even something like global warming, climate injustice that you see, rising seas, which is threatening West Africa. In West Africa, we are saying the sea is swallowing West Africa. Cities in Ghana, cities in Cote d'Ivoire, cities in Senegal, oceanfront cities, including Accra, which I was born in, the sea is coming in because the sea is rising, because the ice caps are melting, and they are melting because Europeans, for 160 years, people of European descent, with their industrialization, which is what they did after African Americans and others, black people in this hemisphere, crushed slavery, then they turned to industrialization, and they pumped all these poisonous gases into the atmosphere. Admittedly, initially they didn't know what it was doing, but we found out, and they still refuse to stop doing it. So the seas are rising, and you've got climate change. So yes, they have taken disrespect for so much, and it is turning on them because climate change is hurting Africa, but it's not confined to Africa. It's everywhere here in the United States, in Europe. So again, I think we need to turn the page. I keep thinking that peoples of color around the world, actually history demands that we tell our story and we push for a new future for humanity, because the kind of system that we have had in the last 500 years is killing us. We are not going to last as much as the dinosaurs last. And the dinosaurs did not kill themselves. Humans are killing themselves.
Let me go to Tim. No. Please, Robert, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, and then the hypocrisy of these Western nations, where they spent 200 years, that they got a head start burning coal, oil, fossil fuel. They really kickstarted the Industrial Revolution for them. But then when African nations start to industrialize, when they finally get up from under the boot of colonialism, all of a sudden they say, hey, you can't burn any oil, you can't burn any coal, that's bad for everybody. And the point is, well, you guys already, you cut your oil and coal production. You cut the things that you did. You're already into the nuclear era. You're already into solar. Let us catch up at least, because they have this conceptualization that Earth is theirs. That divine right of kings. God told me this was mine. You're allowed to be on it. So we'll see if we allow you to start industrializing. The same thing they do with nuclear weapons. Oh, you primitive people don't know how to use them. So we'll hold the key to that, to make sure that you have that. Or nuclear power generation, where they say, oh, you primitive people, you can't have that either. You just get whatever we decide you're allowed to do, because the entire concept is to keep the entire world developing, so they continue to feed that mercantilistic system that simply funnels money to the Western powers, and they enforce it by having massive military spending, because if they can't outcompete you, what they can do is bomb you into submission, and they remind you of that every day.
Tim from Chicago.
And they do
I'm sorry.
When it is killing them. They do it even when it is killing them. I've been working on climate injustice because President Biden is bringing African leaders here on exactly a month from tomorrow, 2 months from tomorrow, December 13th, 14, and 15. And of course, my group now called ADNA, Advocacy Network for Africa, the advocacy group I work for, we are planning to do a number of things. But one of the issues is can we force the West to see that climate change, arresting it, helps all of us. And I'm saying the second point is COVID. Okay? We have been telling them the strategy for containing COVID is leave no area unvaccinated, because COVID does not respect borders. But they refuse. They keep the vaccines for themselves in rich areas in this country. And the Europeans said, no, we are not going to share it, and we are not going to allow you to manufacture it. So COVID is killing Africans, but we've been telling them, listen, if it's killing Africans, it's going to kill Americans too. It's going to kill Europeans too. And it's like, we don't care. We just won't give it to you. So on COVID, they dropped the ball. As the attorney said, on climate, they dropped the ball, and they pick on China. Again, I wish China was more democratic, because for me, democracy allows the people to exercise their power and their moral vision. Okay, so countries with weak democracies bother me. But on climate change, for the West to say to China, well, since 1980, you have been pumping CO2 into the air, so unless you clean it up and you stop, we are not going to start. And as the attorney said, and I agree, they've been doing it for almost 200 years. But they said, no, you stop first.
Absolutely. You stop and you don't get any profits from it. You never get a chance to catch up, which is what you're seeing the global South attempting to do. You know, remember Walter Rodney's book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa? That's really what it is. That's really what it is. Let me go to Tim from Chicago. Tim, what's on your mind?
Good morning, everybody.
Hey.
When I research what you all say and I find out that it's completely true, then I have to look myself in the mirror and say, am I going to believe the truth, or am I just going to look away or turn off the light and believe that I look in the mirror is not really real? And I look in the mirror and I say, well, I think they're correct. The history that they're saying is correct. But there's a lot of history. There's a lot of things being left out. I mean, there's a million things being left out. The genocide of people is horrible, but I can look at modern day Turkey or the modern day Middle East and say that used to be the Byzantine Empire until somebody came up over a hillside and said, well, God told us we're going to take that this land is all ours, and if you don't believe us, well, we're going to kill you all.
But no, but that was really the Balfour Conference, Tim. That was the Balfour Conference, and with the Middle East, there was an option of
Santita. It was Islam.
No, it wasn't Islam. This is the modern day Middle East is a British construct today. It is. They're the ones who made a mess of things. That is what they did. They did that. They did it. At the Balfour Conference, they did that. And they did it for political reasons, because you had the opportunity to set up Israel, for example, in Uganda, Texas even. But they chose this particular area. It's oil rich, and on and on and on. I mean, there is just so much. And so much of what we're doing is we don't have any glaciers in Antarctica now. They're almost all gone. At some point, you have to concede, Tim, that Europeans have made some critical errors, some horrifying mistakes that have imperiled the whole world. Is there a way for us out of it?
Well, India and China are burning coal,
and they're trying to catch up. But let me let Nee respond to you. Nee Akwete, please respond to.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you so much. I mean, my brother who just spoke, actually, he started by saying, okay, I have to look in the mirror, and I want to pat him on the back on that. That is what we all have to do. You know, I also see myself as a teacher, actually, because I was actually trained as a teacher in Ghana before I came to graduate school here. And so I asked myself, what does education do for you? I've heard a lot of people say, well, our education system, both in Ghana and here, people will say the education system didn't teach me this, it didn't teach me that, it was terrible. And I say, well, you may have a point, but guess what? To me, education doesn't really give you knowledge, it gives you a thirst for knowledge. So it sets you on a lifetime of teaching yourself. I spend every day reading, following the papers. I mean, what I learned in school is like 5% of what I know. So every one of us, whatever you hear, and Santita will tell you, we were sharing a joke over the weekend. I said, when I teach my students, I say to them, when you agree with me, when you repeat back to me what I have just said to you, I am very hard on you because I don't want you parroting me. I want you to question what I tell you. Don't say it, don't believe it just because Nia Akwete said it. Go and double check it, triple check it. Is that true? Has it changed? So we need to learn. And the reason I'm saying that is, look, Queen Elizabeth's death should be the starting point for people of color, the global majority, ordinary people, to start doing the extraordinary of rewriting history. Because yes, indeed, Europeans have made massive mistakes, but they will keep covering them up. And I live in Washington, and one of the sayings I have picked up is they say the cover-up is worse than the crime. So the crimes that have been committed the last 5 centuries have been horrible. But if they've been horrible, this way of painting it, oh, Western civilization, oh, the Queen is more or less a state, oh, we are this, we are that. That cover-up is terrible. But you don't expect somebody who commits a crime and is lying about it, and you say, okay, let's just wait and go to sleep and they will tell us the truth. No. You collect the evidence to show they have committed crimes. So it is up to us to look in the mirror and do the research and tell our story. In actual fact, I think the world is hungry for our story because, number one, our story is true. Number two, they haven't heard it. They've been hearing these lies, and they can see that the world is headed in a bad place, okay? Before the Queen died, just close your eyes and think of the headlines and what you saw on TV and radio a month ago, before the Queen died. What did the headlines paint a happy place of what is happening on earth? So the system they have was going in a bad place. The Queen leaving the scene, which makes them talk about her and her legacy, is our opportunity to say, okay, now here is the other and more important part of the story that you have not heard, and we must do it. And Santita mentioned so many of my African heroes. She mentioned Julius Nyerere. Julius Nyerere was Kwame Nkrumah's very good friend. And one of the things that he said is, listen, we Africans, given our history, we are behind other people now, but we have shown we are strong. So here is what, going forward, here's what we must do. Where other people have walked, we must run. So in my life here teaching, I'm saying, okay, somebody is working 3 hours, I have to work 6 hours. I've had friends say to me, it's 7 o'clock, everybody's going home, and you are headed to a seminar. I say, yeah, because those people going home, they run the world. My people are being crushed, so I have to be on the job. Where other people have worked, we must run.
Stay right here, everybody. You know, I want to talk with you for a few more minutes on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and on Santita Jackson and Friends, where we're streaming. I want to get to you, Anita and Stephanie. I want to get some of your comments, and we're going to continue this conversation tomorrow because we are in the midst of the mourning period. We're all part of it. Put the whole Western world in it. And you know what? I think we need to know what we're looking at, what we're mourning, what the conversation in the global South and the colonized countries is about. Why is it that the countries now more and more are saying, look, we want out of the Commonwealth? What is it? How much money is it? There's a wonderful book by an Irish nationalist, Kevin Cahill, who really owns the world. And they let you know the wealthiest person on earth is Queen Elizabeth. Was her 1/6 of the world she controls. She owns whole countries. Dave Dowling said, hey, I'm in Canada. I don't even own my land. I own my house, but you don't own the land that the house sits on. That's why the American dream is so important, because this is the only country on earth, the only country of its size and scope in which you are able to own your own land. That's a big deal. And so when we're watching farmers lose their land, that's a big deal. And corporations are taking it over. Oligarchies, monarchies are taking over our stuff. That's a big deal. You need to know what you're looking at. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow, but stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show. We're going to get some closing thoughts from this brilliant panel, but they'll be back tomorrow. If I can get CK off TV for about 5 minutes back. And I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Love you. All right. Devin, may I pull up Stephanie from Kankakee?
Sure, I gotta run to the other room, but here's Stephanie.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie?
Yes.
Hey, what's on your mind today?
I got one point. Whenever these people are saying we're taking down their General Lee statues and taking away their culture, we need to remind them of everything we talked about on this show. Because they've taken more than people's culture. They've taken their physical, mental, they've taken everything, even languages they've taken from people. So I don't want to hear about their statues being taken down and their cultures being erased.
Oh, okay, and I hear you. I mean, CK, what do you make of this? I mean, there is such resistance. I heard one of these British, I guess he was one of the officials with the museums who was making a very strong case for not returning these stolen artifacts. I know I'm beating that drum today, but I'm thinking about the artifacts. I'm thinking about the money. I'm thinking about more money leaving Africa than going into Africa. It just keeps going, CK. It's like the Commonwealth is a rebranded colonialist structure. I mean, that's what it is. That's what she oversaw. Queen Elizabeth oversaw that.
We have, and certainly, Santita, we have to equate this and look at the analysis of, after a lot of the treasures today, people are recovering treasures and jewels that were stolen from Jewish families by the Nazis. And so I think we have to if we look at reparations and certainly there was a lot of reparations. There's still reparations going on as it relates to the horrific Holocaust that took place. So we have to use that type of an analysis for purposes of recovering and returning valuable gems to different countries. One thing that there are some models. There was reparations that's been paid for by the South African government because of the apartheid regime. There are international examples of reparations being paid as a result of war crimes and atrocities and massive theft. So we have to look at those analyses and what has worked, the roadmap legally of what was implemented, the claims that were made, how they were processed. I believe, look at what's already worked when there are similar acts of war crimes or tragedies and where there are declarations, there have to be declarations of wrongdoing, bad doing, recognition, and look at the legal structure and framework and options that exist to reclaiming or getting or giving back what was stolen and taken during colonial times, and also putting in place measures so that it will stop because it is continuing in many respects. So I think all that needs to be analyzed. It's going to be analyzed. The question will be forced if those countries, including countries like Canada, stand in solidarity and demand a change. I'm a little bit familiar with what happened in Canada because I did go to high school in Canada. And as you mentioned earlier, so, every day in high school, I sang a song, the British national anthem, asking or praying that the Queen can still reign over us and be victorious. I always thought that was some craziness, to be perfectly frank. And my Liberian friend, my Bahamian friend, we would talk about it because we had to sing it every day as part of our school responsibilities. But I always thought that it was the antithesis to what you would want to say in a national anthem when you are a commonwealth, meaning when you are part of Britain, but you're not part of Britain, and you're praying for Britain to continue to reign over us and the Queen to continue to be healthy and victorious and reigning over us. It just struck me as something that was very odd.
Maybe it's an American thing. I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah. I can't.
It's hard to fathom. It's not difficult to understand.
And I think I think we should appeal to the people over the heads of the kings and the politicians and the queens, okay? By which I mean, we've got two brilliant attorneys here. I'm so happy to know them, and I'm listening and I'm learning a lot, not just about the law, but about even historical facts that I didn't know. So thank you. But I'm also suggesting that let us put the era of colonialism, the era of European domination of the earth, which has caused a lot of problems the last 500 years. Yes, let's take it to court. Let's take it to the people's court. Let's link up with Hollywood, okay? And let's make drama out of it, okay? If the ICC doesn't want to accept it, that's fine. I mean, when the ICC tries to go after suspected crimes, the U.S., when it doesn't like it, says, if you even think about it, we're going to slap sanctions on you, okay? So we don't have to do, because I happen to think, even in Britain, the United States, Australia, all these places that you've got people of European descent living, I think that they don't know the story. When you look on social media and the history, they say, oh, we didn't know it. Oh, we didn't know this. So let's tell them the truth. And they will demand change from their people. Right now, they go along with it because they don't know any other facts. Let's inform them. And one more thing, when I live in Washington, I mean, in the last administration when President Trump was in, it was like, well, we don't want the brown people and black people as immigrants here because they're going to change our way of living. And I was so shocked. I wasn't able to speak for days. My goodness, you spent 500 years going to other people, wiping them out, taking over everything, saying, we're going to lord it over you. If you open your mouth, we're going to kill you. We will change your religion. We will change your language. We will change your names. But now, when a few of those people want to come and say, no, they can't come here because they're going to change our way of living. We don't want our way of living. But you went around the world 500 years, I mean, smashing their way of life.
I'm smashing it.
And to that point, and I think the caller, I think it was Todd, was kind of touching on this, where I hear this argument all the time where they say, well, cultures and civilizations fight each other all the time. They go to war all the time. There's winners and there are losers. Empires rise and empires fall. There's no difference to what Europeans did versus what, the Hulu did, let's say the Creek and the Cherokee go to war, one side wins versus the other. There's no difference in that. If you look at the map of the countries that Great Britain conquered or invaded, you'll notice that none really are on the European continent. Indeed, the British were never even able to conquer the Irish. And they're across the street from them. You had the force in 1998. The reason is that it's hard to defeat people and conquer people if they know they're fighting you. What the British and the Europeans did, they went to people who didn't know they were going to war, and then they went to war with them. They got the sucker punch on them, got the drop kick on them, and then claimed that they were just so much better, faster, and smarter. Yeah, it's easy to fight people when they don't know they're in a fight. And that's the difference. It went and floated all around the world to wonderful, welcoming societies who did nothing but take their ships in and give their sailors food and comfort and start trading with them. And then as soon as they got the opportunity, they double-crossed them. And they did it around the world over and over again. It's not if we knew what we were going to war with, we would have blown up the ship before it ever landed. But off the trusting nature of everybody outside of Europe is what gave them that upper hand. That's the difference between one tribe in Africa going to war with another tribe in Africa. We both know we're going to war. But there's a reason the British never just defeated the French outright, defeated the Germans, defeated the Holy Roman Empire or the Italians or the Spanish, because they knew they were fighting them. So you going around getting the jump on people does not mean somehow that you have equivocated to what's going on in the rest of the world.
and I love it when they say, oh, the Cherokees did this, or the Ashanti did this, or the Zulu did this, because that is the only time when they say, oh, well, we were just doing something that brown people were doing, okay? When you catch them doing something wrong, they say, oh, everybody does that, because 99% of the time they are saying to you, oh, we are superior to you, okay? The only time, so peck your ears up when you hear them say, well, everybody does that. that is when they have run out of excuses and they have run out of denials. And you catch them doing something horrible, and then they say, oh, well, everybody does that. And then my question is, so those countries of color are your role models? I thought you went there saying you were bringing them civilization, that your way is better. So, yes, they sucker punch all these countries around the world. Again, this is why we must tell the story, because the present generation, the newer generations coming up need to know that. Because fortunately, thank God, we still have people, young people coming up and learning. And when they know the truth, those stories of lies and to cover up oppression will evaporate like the mist. Mm-hmm. And I'm even saying, believe that if you use democracy and go over the heads of these exploiting countries, predatory countries and predatory monarchies, their own people will realize and say, oh, is this what they did in our name? Okay, well, we are going to stop it. They may not apologize, but they say we need a change. And they are being forced to get back to climate change and COVID and nuclear weapons, okay? These three things that they are pushing are endangering the whole planet. So their system does not work. We have the opportunity to show everybody, our people and their people, that, look, this system needs to change because it was based on violence, it was based on greed, it was based on lack of self-discipline. That if you run into somebody, you say, oh, okay, this guy is helping me, but I can take him. I can sucker punch him, as the attorney said. Thank you so much for that. They will just spring on you when you see them as fellow humans, and let's treat them well. Because some of the cultures that are coming believe in the spiritual world, and they think, hey, listen, when strangers come among you, you must treat them well. So in many of these places, Europeans went there, and the locals were thinking, well, look, we treat people well. Treat people well. You treat them well, they pay you back by killing you and taking over your country.
That's right. And enslaving the rest. Enslaving them, and then whatever happens to you happens.
And writing the books and saying how wonderful they are, and you must copy them. I mean, somebody mentioned, I think, Santita, it was you at the beginning, even on the issue of corruption. They keep talking about corruption in Africa. Yes, there is corruption. I have driven in cities in West Africa where the police will say, well, you run a red light, I'm giving you a ticket, and if you give him $1, he will let you go. Yes, there is corruption in Africa, but it is nothing compared to the corruption of the global system that sucks each year, every year, $100 billion out of Africa alone. 100 with a B, as we speak, every year. And Africa has been independent since 1960, roughly, but they keep sucking the wealth. And so they say, oh, Africans are corrupt. I mean, you read stuff about South Africa these days. And by the way, when I mentioned, all the South African leaders I interacted with in Washington, within hours, when Nelson Mandela showed up in 1990 to go talk to George Bush 41, he thanked a few people. I was lucky enough to be in his hotel room, shook his hand. I was so dumbstruck. But the point is, so I've been following South Africa. And these days, the story is state capture. Oh, okay, the ANC came to power. First, they said Zuma was corrupt. Then the ANC is corrupt. And I said, it comes from actually the terminology we use. Apartheid is the name of the political system that the Afrikaner speakers, white people in South Africa who speak Afrikaans, they put the name apartheid, meaning separateness. And that was in 1948 when they won the whites-only election and they beat the English-speaking group in South Africa. But Europeans went to South Africa in the middle of the 1650s, like 1648. So you have white supremacy in South Africa for more than 300 years. Apartheid, so they were doing all these things. And my question is, so when you show up in somebody's land and you take over everything and you abuse them and you enslave them and you kill them, that is not corruption? Only the ANC is corrupt?
You tell me. You hear it all the time.
I'm going to have to run, but I look forward to continuing this discussion all week. And thank you for including me.
Well, no, you've got to be here.
Thank
And
you
the reason we're doing this, CK, is because I think that we have to have balance to what we're hearing. What we're hearing, we're not hearing the experiences that you have had overseas. We're not hearing that. We're not hearing what the global South are saying. We're not hearing from Barbados and Barbuda and the Bahamas and on and on and on and on it goes. We're not hearing South Africa. We're not hearing Nigeria. We're not listening to them. We're not checking for them. We're not listening to India. And we need to. They have their I'll say this before you all give your closing statements, and I know you've got to run, CK. A friend of my mother's walked into a little store, and an Indian man owns it, and they've been friends for a long time. And he said, my condolences on the Queen. Oh, this man cursed our friend out, and he said, "Oh my gosh, what did I do?" He said, "Let me give you a history lesson, son." Oh boy. And we got a good laugh out of that yesterday. We were like, "Whoa, you mean to tell me you didn't know what you were walking into?" And it really does depend upon their politics, because as you just said, Nee, you've got the present Prime Minister of India, who is way to the right. So of course he's going to be oligarchical in his politics. He's going to be monarchical in his politics. That's where he is. That's why you need to know who people are. Get past the color. You need to know what their politics are, where they line up. And so that's what the Prime Minister of India, that's who he is. So he's going to be very, very, very much in step with, and also trying to get that seat at the funeral. There's that. I know the politics of that too.
And yeah, because one of the things that's right, it takes a certain amount of courage, and I'm not talking about myself, but if you look at somebody like the Prime Minister of India,
mm-hmm.
as we speak, Europeans still have an enormous power over the whole earth. As you mentioned, you could say military capital of the world, Washington, D.C. Financial capital of the world, London.
Absolutely.
Okay? Yeah. And so they still have power. And so to go up against that enormous power, you have to have a lot of courage. And I know of no one more courageous than Dr. King. In fact, I kick myself and say, how come you didn't latch onto him and more or less worship him much earlier? I go to his statue, his memorial in Washington, D.C., and I gaze at it and I read the things that he said, and I say, what an amazing man, and consider the courage that it took for him to oppose enormous power. So my point is, these politicians, it's not just the Indian Prime Minister, it's the presidents and prime ministers who are heading the Commonwealth countries. They stay in the Commonwealth because they are scared of the power still there. One picture for me captures how much power the Western world, the European descent still have. Whenever they have the summit called the G7, they take a group photo, pick it up and look at it. Look at the 7 people whose pictures are in there. You still see. So the power is lined up against us. And a lot of people look at it and they quaver and they shake and they say, oh, okay, this is going to hurt me. I better be quiet. But I'm saying it takes a lot of courage. And so even prime ministers will say, oh, if I oppose Britain, I won't get the companies I want. They might overthrow me, because we know in Africa, if they see you as a leader for your people, you have signed your own death warrant.
Absolutely.
I have heard them say, oh, this leader in Africa is dangerous. Why? Because he wants to keep the resources in his country for his own people. That makes him dangerous. We need to eliminate him. They chopped up and dissolved Patrice Lumumba in acid.
Unbelievable.
Within less than a year after he was popularly elected, because they saw him as dangerous. He was saying, let's keep Congo one and let's keep the wealth of Congo for Congolese. They would rather have puppets who say, okay, sure, come in and take our wealth. Just make sure you leave some for me so I can lord it over the rest of my people.
Well, they
That's
don't
the kind
let
of
you
leaders in the
in.
third world they want.
But they don't let you in unless you're going to preserve their system. That's why I'm very suspicious of the first and the onlys and all of that, because I'm very clear. You don't get in this thing, because I know how close Reverend got to the presidency. I'm clear on it. I saw it and saw it as he was shocking and rocking people by getting all these votes. Who doubles their vote tallies inside of 4 years? First of all, he was one of the last three persons standing in 1984. No one expected him to even last through a primary, let alone be one of the last of the 7 or 8 people who were running. No. They don't want you. And I saw that up close and personal. I said, oh, no. And as my father said, well, we have made our point, and now we will go home. And that is what we've done. So, I mean, I was so proud of him when we were in Atlanta. He said, oh, no. He told my mother, he said, no. If we continue on.
I say that some of us are still very proud of him. It was an honor to talk to him, talk on the show with him yesterday. And we have to take courage. I keep telling people my age and younger, listen, yes, we have issues now, we have difficulties, but just think back to those who came before us and who made things much better for us now. The things that they had to do were much more difficult. They had enormous courage. And for me, actually, when I look at them and say, oh, look at what they did, was so amazing. And then if you add the fact that actually I share something with them, okay? We have African roots. We look somewhat the same, and I say, oh my goodness. So if I dig deep, maybe I could do a little bit of what they did. So they inspire me and give me courage, your dad included.
Hey, I've seen it, but I've seen, that's why my parents went to work for Dr. King. They just said, no, this is the most godly, courageous man. My mother said after they spent time with him, she said, I understand Jesus now. She said, I get it. And so, but I think we have to keep pushing, and we have to tell our own stories. And don't wait for someone else to invite you on their platform and maybe, because if you say something that counters the narrative that they're trying to promulgate, they're not going to invite you back anyway. You need to do your own thing. Let it go. I mean,
absolutely.
You know that.
Santita, that is so true. I will tell you, I was on MSNBC in 2012, I believe, where I was talking about what was going on in Mali and the overthrow of Gaddafi and how people were bearing down on Mali. And I said something that they didn't like. They had told me, oh, it's an hour program. Within 20 minutes, they said, we're going to take a break. After a break, they said, well, you are off the program.
But that's, but that's okay. That's your badge of honor. Because you've got to tell the truth. Truth is neutral. There's no your truth, my truth. There is the truth. And you just have to tell the truth, and then you have to keep on going. You have to know what you're willing to trade off. But look, we're gonna continue this discussion tomorrow. We're gonna take another bite at this apple. There's a whole lot to look at. Robert, is there anything you want to say before I give Nee the closing thought? Robert might be gone already. Well,
I think we're in a great place.
So what were you saying, Robert?
I think we're in a great place to continue the conversation later in the week.
Oh, yeah. Well, I want to continue to do it because I'm watching. Let me know if you're available tomorrow. Me and Robert.
We'll do.
Because I want us to go on, but we have to talk about Aretha Franklin too. So let me know when you're available to do that.
Okay, sounds good.
Because I even asked Reverend about that. You know, they pulled up her FBI file, Nee.
Ah.
Of course.
Oh my goodness. They had an FBI file on her.
Absolutely. Well, you know, if you knew her father, you'd understand it. Her father was to black preachers what she was to music. And in fact, there was a lot of pushback on Dr. King speaking at the March on Washington. In fact, if you look at the whole march, he was really like last. And the person who he brought with him to smooth the way for him was Mahalia Jackson, who was the icon then. And so that having been said, C.L. Franklin, her father, Reverend Franklin, the biggest black preacher in the country, the most popular one, he said, "You know what, Martin, come to Detroit. We'll have a march on Washington. We're going to have a march on Detroit. And this is going to lay the foundation. They're not going to be able to deny you your spot in Washington in August. But I want you to know how much support you have out here." If you look at the aerial shots of the March on Detroit, they say it was 100,000 people. It was way past 100,000 people. It was several times that. But Reverend Franklin was close to Walter Reuther, to all the big labor leaders, all the preachers. He was a huge guy. And he shaped Miss Franklin's politics. And she is known to have said, as she stood up for, because she offered to bail out Angela Davis, for example.
Angela Davis.
Oh, yeah.
That fact I knew I was going to mention that because, but the rest of it, I have learned so much, Santita. I mean, I cannot thank you enough. I have learned a lot in these couple of programs, okay? I mean, Aretha Franklin is people of my generation in West Africa. I'm sure the rest of Africa, certainly the English-speaking Africa, she was a goddess, okay? But we all thought she just was a wonderful musician. We didn't know about her activism. So even talking about after the Queen has died, what do we need to do? We need to write activist history, a history of the people, okay? And to do that, I have been telling fellow African immigrants, I want to design a course you all must take, the history of black people in the United States.
They need it.
Said to me, "Oh, what?"
And many of us need to take it too.
I said, listen, there are so many reasons, but I'll give you one. For your own safety. For 400 years, they've been killing people in this country. So you need to know how that happens, where that happens, so that you will be protected, because African Americans keep protecting black immigrants into this country like me. And there are so many things we need to know. So now, I mean, what you are doing is so great. I'm so excited. I'm even barely coherent. But thank you.
Oh, look, we love you. We love you. We love you. And I'm going to be back in touch with you before the day is out, because there's a lot for us to unpack. And Robert, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
We're still on Facebook. I'm going to call you shortly, as soon as I get off the air.
Okay.
And
okay.
And Brother Robert, thank you so much. I've learned a lot from you, believe it or not. They call me a professor, but I'm actually a student, and I've learned a lot from you.
Which means he's a real professor.
Learner, so I was like, learn new things.
Remember, the servant is always the master. Whenever a professor tells you I'm the student, oh gosh, they're the real teacher. I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. Love you both. Thank you so much, Devin. Thank you for such a great show. Thank you, CK. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. It's been great. Thank you, Dr. Shanina Knight, and of course, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams and Clarence Page, as we talked about Bernard Shaw. And one of these days, I'm gonna reach out so we can talk about the great Max Robinson, because boy, he paid a heck of a price. All these people, the black pundits, the black anchors, all these people you see on television now, that's Max Robinson paving the way for you. Think of Michelle Clark. Who was Michelle Clark? She was killed in that awful crash in 1972 at Midway Airport that forced the closure of the airport for several years. She was the first black person asked to be a correspondent on 60 Minutes. I knew her as a little girl. I was devastated. by her death in that plane crash. But E. Howard Hunt's wife was killed in that crash.
Thank you for the shout out to Max Robinson. You know, I stay Randall Robinson was and is my boss and my hero. I stay in close contact with him, so I'll let him know that you gave a shout out to his beloved brother.
Tell him, well, he knows that he was beloved to us. He spent much time with our family. He lived about 5 minutes from my parents. And we loved him very, very, very much. And Mr. Robinson, Attorney Robinson, has always been very kind because he's always expressed the love and affection that Mr. Robinson had for our family. It could make me cry now. But we saw him struggle, and he basically almost moved into our house, and that was fine with us. Well, when people are having their challenges, that's when they need you. How about that? And he was just a wonderful human being who paid a heavy, heavy, heavy price to open that door for us. And we can never forget Jane Kennedy, the price that she paid as a sportscaster on CBS News, on CBS Sports every Sunday. They treated her horribly. But we somehow or another forget about Jane Kennedy. But we can't forget about her either. There's some people who have opened the door. All these black folks and brown people and women you see on TV now and in radio and every place else. A lot of folks took a lot of hits for all of us to be here. And the very least we can do, as Niakwete says, is work a little harder and move it along. What is our generation going to contribute? You all are continuing to look at Reverend Jackson, who's 80 with Parkinson's, and he's going to give until he shuts his eyes for the last time. But what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Think about that. Love you all. Nee, I love you. Robert, I love you. And we're going to go.
We love you back very much. When you talk about the Black pioneers in media, please include one of my earlier heroes, Ida B. Wells.
Oh, my gosh. Well, she covered so much territory. I mean, in media, really, I got to call her an abolitionist, although she was active, prominently in the years post-slavery. But that's what she was doing. She was fighting slavery. She just did it all. Yeah. At risk to her personal safety. And she did not become a wealthy woman fighting for freedom. That is not what happens, everybody. That is not what happens. But you know what? It's a great life. It's a great life, but you do have to pay for it. You do. So we love you, everybody. Cannot wait to be with you tomorrow. And I hope, yes. Robert, did you have something to say? Please. Does anyone have anything else they want to say? You're more than welcome to. Okay. Well, I'm out of here. I love you. I love you. Love you. See you tomorrow.